So I just want to say the other day, somebody said that their parents let them see Terminator 2 when they were a kid.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
dad took me to see Schindler's List in '93. I think I was 11. So, not as strong as you think.
My stepfather used to rent Real Faces of Death.
No.
So I got to watch almost all of those before I was 10 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was
And,
probably 15, 16 when I first saw my first Faces of Death.
Mm-hmm.
So Schindler's List in 93.
Schindler's List in '93.
Father
So I
son
want to
experience.
tell you about an experience I had when I was around probably like 16, downtown Portland. This must have been about '97.
Okay. Oregon or Maine?
And there was these group of Chinese people, Oregon.
Cool.
So before I told you the farmer story and the two ghost story and a time missing story to Forks, Washington before.
Yep.
That caller that you had about the farmhouse that had the photo backup gave me chills, man. Because if you can think back to my story, that was very similar to what was happening with the land history and stuff there.
That's right.
It freaked me out. But so this lady, I get off the Max and she's frantically running around passing out these flyers. And these flyers are red and they have a picture of a body and prices. And she's talking about body harvesting in China. And like at that time, none of this was like believable or whatever, but she was like really frantically. And they would pass these out and then jump in this van and like disappear and hit another area, almost like they were, doing it in China and they were scared to be like snatched up or something. But she was really scared. And I after she gave it to me, I tried to ask her about it, and she was like frantically in broken English telling me about this stuff. Well, that's one thing. Now we know like that has really been going on. But if you think back, this was '97. This has been going on for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
She was talking about political prisoners and stuff, and I still have the flyer. It's in one of my, tubs with all my childhood stuff. If I can find it, maybe I can like tweet you a picture of it or something.
Please.
Because I'd be interested to see what the inflation on the parts would be too. Because they literally had like your heart, your lung, everything priced out.
Wow. Wow.
So I want to tell you a related story to that. Later, I'm in my 20s. I'm dating a surgical nurse at Emmanuel. And I'm saying goodbye to her. I'm on my street bike. And I'm headed to Lloyd Center. And this surgeon pulls up in like a nice Mercedes, and he says something kind of smart and drives away. And then I leave there and I pass him on the freeway, and I kind of fly through and I get to the mall and I park in the garage, and this guy whips in his car and like, aggressively and slams his car into park and then gets out and starts like charging me as I'm taking my helmet off, right? And so I'm like, what the hell's going on? Like this guy, I know he works with my at Emmanuel. He's like a doctor. And so he runs up to me, he's really frustrated, and he starts screaming at me, and he's like, we call you organ donors for a reason. And he starts explaining to me that if I get into a wreck, even if he can save me, and he knows he can save me, he's going to calculate things like my risk, like I'm driving the second fastest bike in the world, for instance. He saw me zooming on the freeway. Like he said that you think that they just take into account whether they can save you or not. He said they take into account the good of society, all kinds of other factors. And he was really mad at me because he says he has to make these decisions all the time. He's like, I could save a 9-year-old and a 10-year-old, or a young mom with 3 kids that I know needs a transplant, or I can save you, and you're sitting here smoking a cigar, running around on your bike, acting reckless.
Wow.
He's like, depending on what day I'm having, it's depending on what choice I'm going to make, and it's completely up to him and his report. And he told me, he's like, you get down there and you take that donor's off your license right now, because at least if you don't have that, I get to decide whether I can just want to save you, and I may not if it's too expensive.
Wow.
So he was like really blunt and mad, but telling me a lot of like kind of I don't know, venting about maybe he had to make a decision that day or something. But I just want people to know, when you have that organ donors on your license, it seems like a legit, like, good thing to do. Why wouldn't you want to save somebody if you're dying? But it's a business. Every piece you use worth money. They strip you down, rip your body apart, take everything, and then they sell them to the highest bidder. It's the same thing with these blood and plasma donation clinics. They're in the poorest communities. They're taking it, they pay you a lot for the first one for a reason. They train all, you get a big chunk for your plasma. And if you drive around the poorest communities, you'll see these buildings all over that are huge. They look like they can close down overnight, because they will. There's some vague name on it. There's no presentation or whatever. Yep. It's just, they're just like vampires, draining blood and plasma from the poorest people that are already eating shitty food and, all the other things. And
yeah, a lot of them are drug addicts that are showing up and having their plasma taken so that they can get some extra money to go, get a fix afterwards. We see that a lot in Illinois.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're everywhere. Just same with the abortion clinics. You know where they are and stuff. But
yep.
Hey, just before I get out of here, I wanted to mention something I was thinking about the other day. So Breaking Bad came out in 2008, right?
I think so.
And it ended in 2013.
Okay.
And then it's all about this blue drug. This pretty blue drug. And then fentanyl comes out and becomes a problem. And about 2010 was our first real bad problems here in Portland before, mid-season. And then by 2013, you have reports all over the country about this blue drug that's, sweeping and killing people. It was heroin before that and whatever. It's always something. But does these things just take a life of their own? Was somebody inspired? Is it coincidence, or does Hollywood really just do they talk amongst themselves? Do they know? Or
sometimes I think they do. Yeah, sometimes I think they do. The idea behind the blue substance in Breaking Bad was it was supposed to be the purest form of crystal meth possible. And if it's truly pure, then it has that blue kind of hue. I don't know that they knew that they were alluding to something else that was going to happen in the future. And I do think there are people that take on some of these ideas from shit that they've seen and say, hey, this is a great idea. Let's make our drugs blue. And then people are going to think they're pure. And then I don't necessarily understand why all of a sudden, drug dealers used to want to keep their clientele, not murder them. So I don't understand the fentanyl thing as far as I can throw my hat, because it not only is it disgusting, but it also just seems like a poor business decision if you're a giant drug lord.
We talked about that with 6'7" Kevin. These like cults, the cartels dealing all this fentanyl into the States. It's not like what you're saying. You want to return customer. It's like, we want the death.
That's a one-time sale and everyone turns up dead.
And he was saying is like a lot of them in the cartels view death as a way to bring about a miracle through their vision of their religion.
Well, that shit's killing kids too, left and right, and it's not funny at all. It's bullshit.
Yep.
So that's part of the reason why these crackdowns and all these ICE raids are kind of a necessity right now, because it's keeping some of that shit at bay.
Yeah, and I also think a lot of these shows and movies also do have consultants that work within the government, and they get information. They think it's good for the story, and maybe it is part of a larger predictive programming. You see a lot of, like, the X-Files had a ton of consultants within the FBI. Maybe they are feeding them certain information, That's why they're consulting them.
And I definitely think there are a lot of these directors that have the inside track in Hollywood on some of this shit, and they've caught in wind however they've done it, through whatever contacts they have, maybe just being around in the area, but they have put this shit out into movies several years before we have seen it come to light in real life, and it's happened countless times.
I think Stanley Kubrick...
They do that a lot. Have you guys been noticing... you saw this pick up a long time ago, but just warning people, like, my feed has been flooded with black and white divisive stuff and pushing a lot of the race stories. We've seen this before, and they do this to us a lot, where they try to turn us together. It's up and down, not left and right. People need to stop falling for this shit. We get swept up in these, there's truth to a lot of these things, and and stuff, but they're doing it on purpose. It comes in waves. You can track the words when the news agencies and stuff use it. the analytics of when racism or all these things, it seems just too systematic. And I noticed a couple of weeks ago, it's just been really flaring up. They're recommended channels to me of people that have no views, no subscribers, and they're like preaching some they're the other message. And I just want people to watch out for that, because they've done a real good job of doing that. And I really think they would love to push some sort of like race civil war so they can get, the footage and the laws passed with the chaos and stuff like that. And, Palantir and all the things that they have just sitting there that they're probably passing in omnibus bills. But, the next generation doesn't care about anything about privacy or any of these things. So, I don't know what to say about that, but it's coming.
Well, look, you said the word chaos. That makes me think of one of my favorite books, Chaos by Tom O'Neill. We've had him on the show. Crazy story. And if you take his view of things seriously, which I do, Bugliosi, the prosecutor kind of against Charles Manson, basically made up a lot of the helter-skelter stuff. Like the official story that came out of Bugliosi seems to be fake or manipulated. And, I take my interpretation is that the government who had a hand in creating Charles Manson through MK Ultra, and who had a lot of help inside to help, if he was in prison for breaking probation, he was able to get out. How is he able to go to Mexico on probation? The government seems to have a long-standing fetish of creating helter-skelter. I think that what they said was Charles's idea was actually the CIA's idea of racial division. And it's like the oldest thing in the playbook. So yeah, I've also been noticing that there's a lot of stuff that's been astroturfed, and they just want us to fight and hate each other and just pay no attention to the bigger problems at hand. And there's a lot of stuff going on, but yeah, it's definitely something that everyone should be looking out for.
I'll call in another time, because I grew up in a cartel like drug house for the first half of my life.
Oh, wow.
And I'll tell you the stories in detail about how I watched, Portland Police Chief Moose and, the DA's son and stuff stop by, because I was just like a fly on the wall.
Whoa.
So I got to see these people interact and stop by these drug houses and take payments and, all the things. And, just the money flows straight up from the street through these people. And there's nowhere really in the chain that you're going to go. You'll get stopped before you get too far, so
100%. Yeah, please do call back. I'd love to hear that whole story when you get a chance.
Hey, take it easy. Have a good weekend, fellas.
Thanks, man.
Have a good one.
You too.